Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Happy Skews Day to you. It's November 22nd, 2022. I'm Trey Crowder, and that's Mark Agee. What's up, Mark?
What a week, Trey! What a time to be alive. A lot of news happening for a holiday week. Trump announced, like we knew he would. He's running again, so hooray for that. Merrick Garland announced a special counsel. Don't know what to make of that yet. SCOTUS today fucked him on his taxes. He's going to let Congress have them, so that's fun. So now, like, these three handpicked Supreme Court justices are deep state traitors.
Mhm.
Nancy Pelosi stepped down from leadership. She's still going to be a congressperson, and I'm sure we'll be talking about Hakeem Jeffries, her handpicked successor, because I imagine I will have problems with a lot of stuff he does, because his main move is to punch left on every issue except Medicaid for all, which is pretty good on. But there's a hot new conspiracy theory in town that I want to tell you about,
Mm.
Trey.
All right.
Uh, I don't know how much you've been following the FTX collapse, the whole collapse of the crypto economy.
I mean, I knew
Um,
that that had happened, but as we've talked about before on here, but like I've never understood crypto in the first place, really. So I also don't understand what has happened to it. But I know that it's bad if you're in the crypto world. Like it didn't work
yeah,
out, as I understand it.
Yeah, not understanding it doesn't make you stupid. It makes you smart, because it's one of those things when you, like, when I
Sweet.
talk about how, like the government should just make things work again and make things understandable. Like, if you can't like the thing I always talk about, if you can't understand as a regular person like a 3 sentence description, though, you're being sold a bunch of bullshit, right?
Right.
So, like, uh, this guy named, short version of it, I'll take it to the conspiracy theory. So Sam Bankman-Fried was this, like, guy hailed as a tech genius. He ran this crypto exchange called FTX. Turned out it was a Ponzi scheme. He was stealing the money out of the bank accounts to put into his venture fund, which is supposed to be a separate business. Nobody even knows where the money went. Turns out they used a bunch of the money to buy his parents like $120 million worth of real estate in the Bahamas. Yada yada yada. The people running the company were in a polycule, which is the fun, according to one report, which is a fun little twist. They were all banging each other in like a committed 9-person relationship.
All
Uh,
right.
Freed was big Democratic donor, which is part of the origin for this conspiracy theory. And he also espoused something called effective altruism, which is essentially like a liberal benefactor version of greed is good. You have a moral obligation to make as much money as you can so you can fund like good charitable causes, which he admitted
Mhm.
in an interview, which is bullshit branding. Anyway, a lot of fun stuff here. But let's play this video of Marjorie Taylor Greene dipping her toe in this conspiracy theory, and then I'll explain to you what she's trying to say, because she doesn't really get it
About,
across.
but let's talk about the aid to Ukraine. Here in the news, we're just finding out about the situation with FTX and the cryptocurrency. So, is American people's taxpayer dollars going to fund aid in Ukraine, but yet it's really funding something else that's happening, maybe ending up in Democrat donors' pockets? Was that helping Democrat campaigns? Was that helping Democrat candidates get elected?
All
8.9
right,
billion is
Uh.
all right.
Okay. What?
So here's how conspiracy theory goes. All right. The Biden administration has given a bunch of money to Ukraine to fend off Russian occupation. All right.
Mhm.
There's a bunch of Ukrainian money invested in FTX. Sam Bankman Fried took some of his profits from FTX and donated to Democratic causes, and Republicans didn't do as well in this election as they hoped. Therefore, see where I'm going with this?
I
There's a people out.
guess, but
It's pure cope. It's pure cope for getting your ass kicked in the election, because there's a bunch of things wrong with this. One, the aid to Ukraine, regardless of this dumb idiot caucus in Congress that yells about it, is bipartisan. Uh, a lot of one of the other big FTX guys donated a bunch of money to Republicans. So the money was being spent bipartisanly if it was being laundered to Ukraine, which it absolutely fucking wasn't. It's just like different money comes in a lot of piles. And the third thing is, it was saying Bankman Fried gave like $10 million to Democratic candidates this cycle, when like $2 billion was spent. So if you think the whole House and Senate and governorships and everything were decided over $10 million in a $2 billion election, you're a fucking idiot. But the thing is, like, they're really losing their touch, man. Because if Pizzagate was the Mona Lisa, this is like
Mhm.
a child's drawing in your refrigerator.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't follow any of it really, but
Mhm.
I'm happy for Marge that she's got a new conspiracy theory she can, sink her stupid
Yeah,
teeth into or whatever. I know that's got to be very exciting for her. I'm sure they get pumped up whenever a new one of those emerges from the ether. So that's
yeah.
fun.
Yeah, there was a meme version of this theory that expresses it via, arrows, the money flowing. They drew Sam Bankman-Fried as basically a World War II, like a Nazi era propaganda cartoon, like with the hook nose and stuff, and rubbing his hands. So that's fun. And Elon Musk posted it, so it's going well. And he just personally has his feelings hurt because he tried to get some of Freeman Bank Fruit. Sorry, the scam guy from FTX. His money to help bail out Twitter, and the guy didn't come through, so he's just mad about that, and now is turned full Nazi over it. So there you go. Another thing before we get to the show, I read this absolute bonkers story that's full of shade and fraud that I wanted to talk about from ProPublica. They got some tapes from inside some pro-life groups lobbying Tennessee Republicans. And we'll get to the tapes and what they say in a second because it's pretty fucking horrific. But they basically, it's held together by like an interview / profile of this dude named Senator Richard Briggs.
Yeah.
So let's read the first. I'll read the first sentence. This is the fucking around part. When State Senator Richard Briggs voted yes on Tennessee's total abortion ban, he never thought it would actually go into effect. It was 2019 and Roe versus Wade was the law of the land. His vote was just a political statement. Now we get to the finding out part. But on August 25th, the ban in one of the strictest in the country kicked in. And we know what happened next. Tennessee has a horrific state abortion ban. And even though they put what they thought, this guy Briggs happens to be a former Army colonel and heart surgeon. All right. So he knows medicine.
Yeah.
And so he tried to raise some concerns about the way the life of the mother exceptions in rape and incest were written, but nobody listened to him. But now Tennessee women are fleeing across state lines to get life-saving medical care, which none of the lawmakers intended, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they think all the women are lying sluts who I just want an abortion for convenience. But anyway, so this guy's a doctor. And so that brings us to the dumbest debate in world history, where he was talking about how he's had patients and like the lawmakers are saying shit that doesn't make sense. Like, no mother would ever want to terminate a pregnancy just because she gets diagnosed with cancer. Like, if you get diagnosed with cancer, you have to terminate your pregnancy before you can get chemo, right? Because the chemo will kill the baby.
Right.
And they'd say, well, no mother would do that. And he's like, what if the mother already has kids? Like, I know mothers that have had to make this decision. It's a very tough choice, and the fucking government shouldn't be involved in it. And he actually says this. He wishes men would, quote, recuse themselves from the whole thing because we don't need to be talking about that. Now, the debate he's having is with this guy who calls himself Dr. David Reardon. The guy has a PhD in biomedical ethics from a since closed, unaccredited online university. So these are two guys debating,
right,
for the women in Tennessee.
Yeah, and the doctor is the one who's losing. Although this Dr. Senator Colonel, he's got a bunch of titles. Dr. Senator Colonel Briggs is like a good and infuriating example of a lot of Republican politicians nowadays, I think, because like if you read this article about him and read what he had to say about the law and stuff like that, he seems like an extremely reasonable and sensible guy. He's a doctor too, so he knows what he's talking about. He's talking about the dangers of laws like this and how they're bad and everything. But he voted for it. When it was something to be voted on because he's a Republican, and at the end of the day, that's what they do. They vote, they vote down the party line, and that's exactly what he did. And you reference his rationale reportedly is that it was in 2019, and he never thought Roe would be overturned, so that it would never matter anyway. So it's just easy for him to be like, "Yeah, I'm pro-life. See, this shit's never going to matter." But lo and behold, now here we are, and he's like, trying to do something about it, or at least talking about it. And, we all know how that's going to work. But Tennessee, we're number one, everybody. This is like the most restrictive, I think, so far, trigger law for abortion in the U.S. So go us. That checks out.
So the actual news in this story was the recording the director of the Susan B. Anthony Foundation, which is a hardcore pro-life group, was urging Tennessee lawmakers to go after IVF doctors, even though lawmakers have said they will not fuck around with in vitro fertilization, but they're absolutely going to do it. She's just telling them to wait for a little while. And they're also probably going to go after, birth control and maybe condoms. I don't know. But
they're trying to couch it like, oh, no, there are exceptions in the law, but it's just, they're not. There's a thing in the law that says a doctor is able to defend himself against the charges of, performing an abortion if he did it to save the life of the woman. But like, he's presumed guilty and has to prove his innocence. Like, it's not like saving the life of the woman is not explicitly covered. It's just, if you do that, you can then go to court and say you shouldn't have to go to jail for 15 years or whatever, because that was the circumstance. But that's going to, you know, any doctor is going to, you know, think twice. It's going to be a major factor in considering your options or whatever. If you know you're going to have to go to court for fucking, you know.
Yeah, every doctor already carries humongous malpractice insurance, you know, coverage for like getting sued, and but like they're talking about establishing like, well, first of all, having to go to court to prove you're innocent is fundamentally un-American and antithetical to how evidence works. It's like Minority Report for abortions or something.
Yep. Yeah.
And they're talking about like keeping data where if a doctor does above average amount of abortions, they're probably lying and giving out non-life-saving, which is like, what if a doctor has a bad week with luck with patients or something? It's like, yeah. Anyway, just for a little bit of fun before we get to the show, like we said, Trump announced, and I wanted to just take a brief moment, don't have anything to say about it really, but I wanted to enjoy this video of people trying to leave Trump's big announcement speech early and security not letting him out the door.
Help is on the way. Joe Biden has abolished America's borders. We are going to restore and secure America's borders.
He's walking the room, Trey.
We built the wall, and now we will add.
Did you see that guy?
We built the wall.
No, I haven't.
There's a guy right in the middle at like 13 or 14 seconds who like turns around and gives the, like, you know, kill it notion. Like, he, you know, with his hand over his throat. Yeah, he's like, fucking, I can't do this anymore. This is wild to me though, because like, I just don't understand how you could ever find yourself in that room for that event. And then, you know, like, how bad was the damn speech or whatever? Like, this is, you know, this is, you'd think this would be his number one crowd right here, but even they're not having it.
They're the highfalutin ones, so they're just there to be seen and shake hands. They don't like actually like
care.
But like, it was funny because Trump promised he'd keep the speech short. That's probably that was his deal with the TV networks if they carry it. And then he promised to take no more than 45 minutes. And at 45 minutes in, he told them to take their seats. So it's like, I know you didn't go to church growing up, but there was a phenomenon where you'd like be like, you come out, football's about to start, you know, like, let's fucking go. And the preacher will get to it, like, now we get to the reading. It's like, fuck, we're gonna be here another half an hour.
All right, well, let's get into it. With us, as always, is producer Matt. This is Weekly Skews. I want to remind y'all, of course, a couple quick things. Number one, if you'd like to see me perform live, go to TreyCrowder.com. Check out the upcoming shows. Me and Corey and Drew will be at Zany's in Nashville the weekend before Christmas. And I got a bunch of other dates in 2023. So go to TreyCrowder.com. Check that out. Get some tickets. Come and see me. Number two, if you enjoy this program and would like to show your support, you can do so by signing up on Patreon. $5 a month gets you access to full-length bonus episodes. This week, we're going to be recording our first Q&A. People have been requesting it. That's right. We're going to take prompts directly from you guys as we do at the end of the main show with the comments. We're going to do a bonus episode based around that. We've covered all kinds of other subjects on there. A lot of times, if there's a big subject during the week, you know, the bonus episode serves as like getting further into detail on it and things of that nature. So if you want some more Skews in your life, go to weeklyskews.com/more. Or you can just go on Patreon and look me up. Either way works. Sign up on there and make it so. We would appreciate it. Okay. As for the show tonight, there's been another horrific shooting, this time in Colorado Springs, at a gay nightclub there called Club Q. Will it have any impact on the hateful and dangerous rhetoric aimed towards the LGBTQ community that emanates constantly from the right wing? I think we all know the answer to that question, but we'll talk about it a little later. First, though, of course, we begin with the Daily Dumbass. Mac, graphic, please. Tonight's DD, vampires for not being nearly as cool as werewolves. That's right. We hear from who else? The man himself. Hit it, Matt.
I want to tell you to keep the faith. Oh, you ever watch a stupid movie late at night hoping it's going to get better, don't get better, but you keep watching it anyway? The other night, I was watching this movie. I was watching this movie called Fright Night, Freak Night, or some type of night, but it was about vampires. I don't know if you know vampires are some cool people, are they not? But I'm going to tell you something that I found out. A werewolf can kill a vampire. Did you know that? I never knew that, so I didn't want to be a vampire anymore. I want to be a werewolf. But then anyway, as I'm watching this movie, and then you tell how stupid it is because it's 1 in the morning. So I'm watching my TV, these kids watching their TV, vampire kill on their TV.
All right.
So you know it's kind of
Yeah,
stupid, but I'm
right.
still watching though. As I'm watching this,
It's
basically
made as much
evidence that-
sense as it's going to make at that point. He goes on for another 90 seconds, never really approaching a cogent point. But Roy Wood Jr. posted that clip and said he was like, I don't know about being in the Senate, but I watched this shit in a comedy club. And then that night, Roy went up on stage and opened his set with just doing this verbatim.
Yeah, it was great.
So yeah, love Roy. But yeah,
too.
what the hell?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's got a future in stand up if he shifts gears. So the thing is, like, so the movie he's talking about, Fright Night. There's been 2 versions of it. I'm not sure whether he was watching the 2000, like the 1985 version, the 2011 version. But anyway, there's no fucking werewolves in it. So I don't know what he's talking about. But so
maybe it was like Twilight or something. He just got the name totally wrong. You know what I
Maybe.
mean? Or one of the Underworld movies. So I'm giving Herschel a little too much credit here, probably. But
No.
like, did he just invent a werewolf? He probably I don't know. Maybe we got the wrong movie.
Yeah, werewolves did kill vampires. Maybe he took a diversion into another movie for a second, because in Underworld, yeah, it's about a war between vampires and werewolves.
Mhm.
But he was talking about Fright Night because the point he's trying to make, and I had to go find the print version, and read it to decipher it, like try to diagram his senses and shit. So the climax of Fright Night is they try to kill a vampire with like holy water and a cross, and it doesn't work because the guy trying to do it is a non-believer. But when he gives the holy water and the cross to a believer, it works, and they're able to kill the vampire through the power of Christ, right?
Okay.
So he's saying that you gotta have faith. Yeah. That's the point he's trying to make. If you listen to all 2.5 minutes and bang your head against a rock for like 3 or 4 times before you listen to it.
Yeah, you got to have faith. He's like, which brings me to another point. You guys heard this band Limp Bizkit? Well, they had a great cover song all about illustrating this point and the importance of having faith. And as I listened to Fred Durst, very intelligent man, I realized that, this is a message we need to spread out here. And I'm aware of that song, like I said, as a cover, but, we're sticking with, he's on the reboots. He's watching the later editions. See, it's consistent. Yeah. I know what I'm doing.
You probably do it. And just like, like Fred, I also did it all for the nookie. But anyway.
All right. Next, our first honorable mention for Daily Dumbass is the government of Arizona for not listening to this clearly sane man. Let's hear this impassioned plea.
Once again, the eyes of the world are upon Maricopa County for another botched election. Am I here to accuse you of stealing the vote? Heavens no, for that would make me a terrorist, wouldn't it? Let me ask you, if you took your life savings to a bank and the teller put them in a machine and the machine kicked out 1 out of 4 of your bills and the teller said, don't worry, we'll put them in box 3 over here and we'll let you know how many were in there later. We'll send them off to a separate location and someone will be sure to get back to you and tell you how much money you have. Would you be okay with that?
So I wanted to talk about this guy for a couple of reasons. One, he's a returning champion. You're not like hallucinating. I thought I had like Mandela effect for a second, because we've talked about this guy before. He was in San Diego last year screaming about vaccines at a city council meeting in the exact same haircut and the exact same shirt. So he really,
that's his, town hall shirt or whatever. That's the shirt. He has to let everybody know that, he's on the side of liberty and or statues when he's going to go and try to speak his, truth to power.
Yeah. So the good news about this election is so far, the only ones screaming fraud are guys like this and not like the bow tie fascists. So that's good. It's Kari Lake's like edged up to it, but then kind of pulled back, and now she's pivoted to running for vice president. So this particular meeting, I think it was this one. Maricopa County has fucked up their rules for public debate. So I guess everyone gets 3 minutes, but you can also pass your 3 minutes along to another speaker. So everybody signed up, then gave all their minutes to one guy who talked for like 45 minutes, sounding exactly like this guy. So it's just like, yeah. And it also, they're saying that even the Maricopa County board has no jurisdiction because the elections in which they won were also rigged. So apparently there's no government Maricopa. So this guy has declared himself emperor and says they have to have a new election. So there you go.
So yeah, well, this is barely relevant. This is an aside, but this dude looks a lot like a guy that I lived beside in college. He lived in the apartment next to us, and that guy, he introduced himself, and we called him by that name for the whole time we lived there, and then we found out like 2 years after we had moved, because we ran into him at a bar with some other people, that was never his name. He just made up a name just for us to call him. I don't know if he just always wanted that name or something, you know what I mean? But yeah, come find out wasn't even a little bit his name. So it could be this guy actually. Maybe he moved out west.
It does occur to me that like one downside of legalizing weed is it stops being a countercultural thing. So these guys don't have a personality anymore, so they got to find something else to do.
Yeah, he's another example of like who was it? Who was it that did some shit on the? Oh, it was the Nancy Pelosi's husband, the attacker or whatever. When they were like, we're supposed to believe this guy's right wing. He's a nudist and he whatever the other shit that he did. And it's like this guy's another example of this. Of that, I feel like where it's like he's a white guy with dreadlocks, clearly super into pot. But they can be right wing loonies too. Stop stereotyping. Everybody can be a dumbass. Yeah. Okay.
Every conspiracy theory ends up being anti-Semitism, and then that only has one political home, and it's on the right. So related, we're talking about election denier stuff. This is in Dallas. This is in Texas. This guy in Dallas who thinks that Dallas City Council elections are rigged for Democrats, which is funny because, like all cities, Dallas is pretty liberal. But the right has a new election fraud expert, one who was once busted for illegally filming people in his bathroom.
Stand-up guy.
It's even weirder than this. We're going to get to that in a second. So where this goes is this guy posted a video to Rumble, all right, which is like the right-wing YouTube. Okay. He's trying to call for a delay in the certification of a midterm vote because they have video footage filmed by somebody who worked the election that shows the check-in people, the number of people that voted jumped after the polls closed or whatever. It's just a computer glitch or whatever. Just so they hit enter and it tabulated in whatever the spreadsheet program they were using. But anyway, this guy named Kevin Moncla, Moncla, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, is the guy running this campaign. He's trying to raise money, of course, to crowdfund his investigation. I think he set his target for 200,000. He's got 20,000 so far. So good luck with that, Kevin. I hope you good luck headed towards jail. So the backstory here, so he had to pay $3 million for filming people in his bathroom. The prosecutor said he found no criminal evidence, even though he filmed children in there, which is fucking weird. But so it was his own bathroom, and the videos he kept were of his then wife. He was filming his own wife in the bathroom. You remember the line from the first Star Wars movie, like a wretched, was it?
There's never been such a wretched hive of scum and villainy, or something like that. Yeah. I'm sure the nerds could correct us. Yeah, but it's something like that.
The modern Republican Party, there is no genre pervert that isn't there.
I know. Every time, dude. It's all these dudes that are always like the face of these various, lunatic movements or whatever. And I guess it isn't shocking, but every time they've got some wild shit in their background. It's almost like they're fucking crazy.
It's like you don't need to set up a video camera to see your wife naked. In theory, you get to see your wife naked a decent amount when you're married, even just walking around the house, right? So I don't even know what the fuck this guy's doing. He probably was into like some poop or pee play and she wouldn't do it. She's like, oh, well, I got the filmer then. So anyway, he got caught because, let me quote here, his then wife found a box of videotapes of herself peeing and pooping along with like neighborhood kids and stuff. And I guess that's a good way to turn your wife into a then wife. So good for her.
Yeah, no shit.
Don't film people in the bathroom, even if you're married to them. It's a good rule.
General rule of thumb. I'm comfortable taking that stance with you, Mark. I agree. Our final honorable mention for Daily Dumbass is Carrot Top for not being able to top this shit. This is Joni Ernst talking about gas prices and Thanksgiving and stuff.
Yeah.
The chairman of the Democrats' Congressional Campaign Committee said families struggling with these rising prices should eat Chef Boyardee. That's what he said. If that is the Democrats' solution, Boy, are we cooked. Chef Boyardee?
Okay.
No. Chef.
My
right.
God. It's like
Damn it.
anytime it's like she thought that was gonna kill, I think. It's
Yeah.
also it's like this is why did we, at what point in their meeting it was like we need to, we need to know what this speech needs some prop comedy. That's what we got to get to. Somebody
Dude.
mocked that up, brought it out there, and just the level of pride with which she presents she's like, you get it, huh? Boy, are we cooked, right?
It's not
Hey?
even it's not even a can. They make cans that size she could use for props. She used like an
Like a
old whey protein
powder.
container.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So like I don't even know what the fuck she's doing, but these Congress people love props in the floor of the Senate. So what she's talking about is Sean Patrick Maloney, who we talked about last week, because he's the DCCC leader who bubble fucked away his own election after pushing out a progressive. He did say he was saying that when his gas prices went up when he was a kid, his family was struggling to get by. They would eat Chef Boyardee. And now that part is fine. That's not let them eat cake. He's just talking about how his family went through hard times. But then he said that's what families have to do. And that approach is let them eat cake territory. Anyway, I'm not going to defend Sean Patrick Maloney because I'm not a fan. But God, Joni Ernst sucks. Jesus.
Yep. All right. Well, let's get into it. As we referenced up top, as you all are surely aware, there was another mass shooting. A gunman killed 5 people at an LGBTQ nightclub in Colorado Springs. And, so it's time to have another reasoned conversation about the machinations behind that and what we can do as a people to help and move forward into a world in which things like this never happen again, right? Surely that would be the outcome. No.
We're talking a little bit about the shooting itself. I'm sure everyone's familiar with by now, but then all the politics that led to it and why they won't relent on this shit, even though it's a losing cause for them. So just before midnight Saturday, this dipshit 22-year-old in tactical gear with an AR-15 and a sidearm entered a nightclub and shot a bunch of people, killed at least 5, and I think injured at least 25 others. Killed 5. I think 5 are dead so far. Excuse me. I don't think anybody else is going to die, but I don't know that for sure. But shot 25 other people until some people at the nightclub tackled him and stopped him. We'll talk about them in a minute. At first, I want to flag this for a second because the first couple of days reports said the motive for the Club Q mass shooting was unclear. And I don't really want to say that media shouldn't do this because you should always be cautious because nobody needs to be in a hurry about this stuff. The guy's in custody. We don't need to be in a hurry to have a political fight about tragedy, right? But I want to come back to that in a minute because it was pretty observably clear what he was up to just by who he was, but we'll get to that in a second. So he was today charged with 5 counts of first-degree murder and 5 counts of bias-motivated crime, which other states call hate crimes, causing bodily injury. So again, the motive for the Club Q mass shooter was unclear. The guy, he's the grandson of a longtime East County politician who's a Republican. Not just any Republican. He's been around for a long time. He's represented the 71st District since 2016. He served the Santee City Council and was the mayor for 2 decades. So he's a well-known political figure in the area. And last year, Vopel faced criticism after he compared January 6th to the American Revolutionary War. This is Lexington and Concord, first shots fired against tyranny. Tyranny will follow in the aftermath of Biden's swearing on the 20th. And then a couple of days later, he says comments were misconstrued. I don't know how the fuck you misconstrued that.
What other interpretation of that could there be? But it's always that's always the go-to after it. That's almost like, saying you were hacked after, you accidentally retweet some porn or whatever. It's like calling your comments misconstrued when they were just very explicitly the exact type of shit you're always spouting.
Yeah, and maybe it'll come out that like I'm not saying every grandson shares their grandfather's politics. I certainly didn't share my grandfather's, but when your grandfather is in the fascist hate business and then you go into the fascist hate business, it's clear to assume your motivation is fascist hate, right? You can pretty much throw that string there. It's a family business. So a couple things about this guy. He had what should have been a bad criminal history. All right. 1.5 years before he was arrested in the nightclub. The guy's name is Anderson Lee Aldrich. He allegedly threatened his mother with a homemade bomb, forced his neighbors in surrounding homes to evacuate while the bomb squad and crisis negotiators talked him into surrendering. Yet despite that scare, there's no public record that prosecutors move forward with felony kidnapping and menacing charges against Aldrich, or the police or relatives tried to trigger Califado's red flag law that would have allowed authorities to seize the weapons and ammo the man's mother says he had with him.
I mean, what, like, why? What's the point of having, laws like that one, a red flag? Like, if that ain't a red flag, how much redder does a fucking flag need to be? You know what I mean? Like,
listen to this. Like, it wasn't just like, so I imagine he didn't get charged because his grandfather's a fucking mayor, but like,
yeah, probably.
So maybe there was no flag to wave because they fucking pulled back from charging him. But here's like, CNN got a hold of video of he shot on his cell phone camera of the standoff. And he's telling the camera, I've got the fucking shitheads outside. Look at that. They've got a bead on me. You fucking see that right there? Fucking shitheads got their fucking rifles out. If they breach, I'm going to fucking blow it to holy hell. He ends the video with what seems like a message, law enforcement outside. So go ahead and come in, boys. Let's fucking see it. This guy didn't get charged.
Right.
I read a news story the other day where a mom, she got charged with child abuse for letting her kid walk home from his friend's house half a mile away.
Right.
What the fuck country is this?
But was that mom's papa the mayor, Mark? That's fucking crazy. It's like, it's 20. It's like, oh, it's just a phase. Where boys will be boys, threatening to blow up their mom in the neighborhood and stuff. It's ridiculous.
So before we get to the politics of it for a second, I want to talk about the heroes because they deserve it. A couple people saved a lot of lives that night. The Times had a sort of a profile / TikTok of the shooting with an interview with the main guy who took down the shooter. His name is Richard Fierro. He's an Army veteran. I'm going to read here. In Iraq and Afghanistan, he'd been shot at, seen roadside bombs shred trucks in his platoon, lost friends. He was twice awarded the Bronze Star. Okay, so did his service to the country and has been through combat before, so he didn't freeze. And the thing to know here is he has PTSD pretty bad. One of the reasons he was out that night, he was there with his wife, daughter, and her boyfriend there to support one of his daughter's high school friends was dancing in a drag show. So it's like a nice family fun night out doing campy shit. And he has a hard time with crowds. So he really had to gas himself up to go there because he has hypervigilance from being in the war. He's just nervous around other people and objects he can't keep his eye on and shit like that. But he said he wanted to go watch one of his daughter's friends to perform. And I will read this quote here. These kids want to live that way. They want to have a good time. Have at it. I'm happy about it because that is what I fought for. So they can do whatever the hell they want. Yes. I mean, I'm not trying to draw, there's no connection to the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and our personal freedoms. That's fucking gassed up bullshit. But the guy did his service and he didn't make the decision to go to war. So the guy came in and started shooting. And he ran over and grabbed him by the back of his tactical gear, threw him to the ground, kicked the long gun around, and took his pistol away from him and started beating him in the head with it. And then I'm going to quote from the story, then say why it's probably wrong. But it says, a drag dancer was passing by. Mr. Ferreira said he ordered her to stomp the attacker with her high heels, which is fucking stomp his ass. And he kept pummeling the shooter. He thought he'd killed the guy. The drag dancer thing, I saw some pushback from the community there that said that it wasn't a drag dancer, it was a trans woman. Now, I'm not sure at the time he got that quote. It could have gotten from Fierro himself. We just didn't understand the identity of the person doing the attack. But anyway, if it did come from Fierro, I think his heart's in the right place, and you all agree. All people want to do is for you to politely ask what they want to be called and then call them that. It's so easy. The cops did it in this shooting. They announced the deaths and the victims by what they identify as, not some dickhead shit by their fucking driver's license or birth names. Anyway, CNN had an interview with Fierro last night. I thought it was worth watching a little bit of it.
Yep. All right. Hit it, Matt, whenever you got it. Interview with Mr. Fierro here. Well, Matt's trying to pull that up, I suppose. Here it comes. Now I'm just trying to fill the air. Yeah, it's a harrowing account and some wild shit. I have thoughts on this guy and all of it here in just a second.
It may not even have been a window lift, but I saw a lot of people, and this guy was there, and I saw the ACU pattern flag vest. And for me, that was like, there's a handle. I'm getting it. So I ran across the room, grabbed the handle, pulled him down, and then started to, actually, I think I went for his gun with him. His rifle flew in front of him, and the young man that tried to jump in there with me, we both either pulled him down or whatever, but he ended up at his head, and right next to the AR. And then with the AR, I told him, push the AR, get the AR away from him. The kid pushed the AR. I don't know what his name was. And then I proceeded to take his other weapon, the pistol, and then just start hitting him where I could, but the armor's in the way. And I found a crease between his armor and his head, and I just started wailing away with his gun. And then I told the kid in front of me, kick him, keep kicking him. And I was guiding him. I was telling people, call 911, call 911. I brought him down. I was in mode. I was doing what I do downrange. You know, I trained for this. I don't want to ever do this. I didn't even retire because I was done doing this stuff. It was too much, and I'm, you know, it came in handy, and I got to protect my kid. I lost my kid's boyfriend. I tried to have everybody in there. I still feel bad that there's 5 people. There's 5 people that didn't come home.
All right, you can cut it, Matt.
Yeah, pretty rough. While I hate that he feels, bad. I mean, obviously anybody would feel bad, but I'm saying it's sad. But like, so here, first of all, I used to work with a vet who every time a mass shooting happened, he would talk about how, like, if he was there, he would have stopped it or whatever. And that dude was sort of a blowhard or whatever. But, obviously, I'm glad that actually happened this time. But what pisses me off already is, I don't know if you've seen it, but some of the right-wing dipshits on Twitter and stuff have already started pointing to this as, like, some kind of false flag or some kind of bullshit indicator. Like, I saw one of them, like a pretty prominent one, that Jack Posobiec, or however the hell you say his name. He said earlier, he's like, we're just supposed to just believe that a U.S. Army veteran was in a gay nightclub at a drag show. Okay. And it's like, yeah, because, real men don't, show an interest in their daughter's life and try to enjoy things as a family because, and look at and broaden their horizons and are secure enough in their sexuality to do something with their family without being fucking threatened by any of it. Like, it's like we were saying earlier with the guy that attacked Pelosi. It's like, he got naked and did yoga. Can't be one of us. This guy, was in the Army and is a badass. So obviously he can't be on their side. Although, like, what's the fucking sides in a mass shooting? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's all just so fucking gross, but also predictable.
This is just the most American thing to ever happen. You got a mass shooting. You got hate. You got people choosing political sides as if one side is right, as opposed, like you said, it shouldn't be two sides. It should be everybody in the world against this one fucking asshole.
Right.
You got a guy utterly broken by war who didn't want to ever do it again, who had to. You got, and then when the cops got there, mass shootings are chaotic. It's hard to piece together what's happening when you show up on scene, right? That's why you don't want everybody having guns, because you won't know who the good guys and bad guys are.
Right.
But Fierro, they cuff him, while he's covered in blood, and put him in the back of a cop car, and he doesn't know if his family's alive, and they left him there for an hour. So you could say racism, right? It's like everything popped up in this. You want to say the pro-American side is like our individual do-it-yourself badass sort of mythology does lead people to charge into situations like where they otherwise wouldn't find the rectitude to do it, like Flight 93 on 9/11, for example. So that's a fascinating story. They hijacked the wrong flight. Basically, half the people in that flight knew karate, and they're a bunch of military veterans, so they fucked up on that day. And that's the positive side of America. But it's just everything wrapped up in once. And before we get to politics of it, I want to talk about free speech for a second, because no one really knows what it is anymore. And I'm a free speech absolutist. I consider myself literally a card-carrying member of the ACLU. But so I want to talk about Kyrie Irving for a second. I promise I'll make this connect. So Kyrie Irving is a basketball player for the New York Nets, and he got in some hot water a couple weeks ago because he posted a video link to a horrifically anti-Semitic documentary on Amazon with no comment. And he was asked about it. He said he was just asking questions, even though the documentary says the Holocaust was exaggerated, and anyway, black people are the real Israelites, yada, yada, yada. And then he's acting like he's like, don't treat me like what I say is important. I'm just a guy fucking posting shit. But you have like millions of followers, and it's a responsibility whether you want it or not. You can literally just say nothing. No one made you post it. You can keep your fucking mouth shut. If you just
Also, that's been an ongoing thing with him his whole career.
Yeah.
I feel like he's like also a flat earther, but he tried to be like a hero for the anti-vaxxers during COVID and everything. Like he's always been a like, I stand up for what I believe, and everything he believes seems to be horrifically stupid. So
he's just like a spiritually seeking dude. I think he's had 3 different religions in the last 3 years. He just like wonders about a bunch of stuff, and he's not smart enough to think through stuff where he says it out loud. But anyway, so like yesterday, predictably, like hundreds of Hebrew Black Israelites, which are considered a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center, showed up outside the Barclays Center in the Nets play to distribute a bunch of anti-Semitic literature. Which is, like I said, completely foreseeable. So you can't say your words don't have an impact. You literally got a bunch of anti-Semites to show up at your game, right? You did that. You can take responsibility or not, but you can't. That's my free speech right to say fuck you for doing that, right? And then today he gives a quote where he says, "I just want to be able to say what I want and not have a big backlash to it." So he wants free speech, but the rest of us can't call him a dipshit.
Exactly right. The people who have the backlash, they shouldn't have free speech because both your bullshit and the backlash are both free speech.
Yeah. So the right's been trying to gin up all this fucking stochastic terrorism, which is what it is. And every time it happens, they act like their rhetoric does not connect to the real world. Like it's just
right.
But like just a couple instances in the last few years, after Trump elevated anti-immigrant, anti-Latino rhetoric, we had the deadliest anti-Latino shooting in modern history, which is El Paso. After general rousing racist rhetoric, we had Emmanuel, African Methodist Episcopal. After anti-Asian hate with COVID, Atlanta. And because of weird conspiracy theories connecting immigration with anti-Semitism, you had the Tree of Life shooting and the Buffalo shooting, right? The mass shootings. And now, after an anti-LGBT plus campaign, you get Colorado Springs, which brings me to Lauren Boebert, because she posted typical thoughts and prayers because she's in Colorado, not far from Colorado Springs, I don't think, but I don't know my Colorado geography that well. But like, so she posted her thoughts and prayers thing about the shooting, but she's been calling all of her social media, calling people groomers and saying we need to cancel drag shows.
Right.
Shows are a danger to children.
Right.
For 2 years, 2.5 years.
Yeah, I mean, when you literally talk all the time about how basically anybody in the community is a groomer and a pedophile and they're dangerous to kids, and your whole thing is being like somebody thinking that we got to protect the children are precious and all that shit, and you just keep that going and going, you can't be surprised when somebody decides to, I'm gonna do something about it. Like it makes those people a target. Like it's a direct result of the shit that you say. Like you can't dehumanize people repeatedly like that and vilify them for fucking nothing, and then act shocked when an armed lunatic sees them as the villain in their own fucking heroic tale or whatever and does some crazy shit.
I mean, it's just like they're not going to fucking pull back. So it leaves it up to the rest of us to make it clear that they're fucking assholes who don't represent most of us, and to express ourselves in the ballot box, which we sort of did last Tuesday, a week ago Tuesday. But while we're on the subject of free speech and how idiots don't understand it, let's talk about Elon Musk for a second, because he spent all weekend reinstating a bunch of anti-trans activists. We're talking guys you might have heard of, like James Lindsay and Jordan Peterson, who fashion themselves academics. Libs of TikTok had been sort of banned, but it's back. Libs of TikTok, if you're not aware, is a super popular social media account across all platforms that just takes videos that like trans people or teachers with blue hair film talking about being nice to gay people and makes them mega viral and makes them targets to the point where people are chased out of their homes. And a lot of her content, this lady's content, goes straight to Tucker Carlson's shows. It's seen by millions and millions of people. And also, OK Groomer was back trending on Twitter over the weekend. So yeah, fuck Elon, because these people just think they're playing it. They're not playing, and not for nothing. Elon has a personal connection to this issue because he has a transgender daughter who doesn't speak to him, which I think might be a factor in all this. And he says he lost his connection to his daughter because of neo-Marxists. Yeah, and he doesn't. He's just this guy. Absolutely fucking sucks. And these people just do this stuff, and they fuck around with other people's lives, and they don't take any sort of responsibility for it. It's never their fault. They never just shut the fuck up. And we're getting ready to watch this video from Fox News. It's a compilation of shit they've been saying recently. And think about, if you're not trying to get people killed, what is this stuff for?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hit it, Matt.
Interested in sexualizing children, and unfortunately some people are, what would you do? You might have a drag queen story hour.
If you don't see that as teetering on the edge of losing civilization, then you and I just disagree.
Pernicious and sick drag queen story hours.
Libs of TikTok, one of the most informative accounts on Twitter, and because it is so informative, it keeps getting banned.
Adult male putting on women's clothing and dancing and talking about sexual themes with other people's children.
Drag queen story time.
Don't want them in preschool teaching them to twerk.
Why would any parent allow their child to be sexualized by an adult man with a fetish for kids?
A sort of pedophilic.
But that literally ends with him saying, this one guy who's on Tucker's show says people need to arm themselves with information or whatever. And then Tucker's like, people need to arm themselves. That's for sure. I agree with that. But
yeah, because if you think there's an organized pedophile grooming operation down the street, you might want to take a gun and go try to shut it down, right?
Right.
Like if you're prone to vigilante stuff, because that would be horrific if that was true. It's just not fucking true. This drag show was happening at midnight. There are no kids there.
But they just love shit that, you know, freaks them out, like freaks the base out, stuff that they're afraid of, that makes them mad and uncomfortable and all that stuff. It's just like, you know, it keeps them in the type of mode that they generally want them in. And it's like, in transgender people for the past few years now, it's been like that new hot thing. Now it's, you know, furries too or whatever, but it's always something, you know, they got to have their boogeyman. Got to.
The thing that kills me about this, and why is it responsible up to the responsibility of the other 70% of us who are sane, is like these people aren't pulling back from it, even though it doesn't have any sort of electoral effect in their direction. We just had a national referendum about stuff like this, about litter boxes and trans panic and abortion access. And this sort of connects to what we talked about at the top of the show with like what's going on in Tennessee and abortion. But like, how can you see what's happening electorally and still think we're a democracy and keep pushing forward these horrifically unpopular shit that makes everyone hate you? Like, they're in such a bubble, they think they're popular. Right. And that's truly fucking frightening. It's just going to be elections. Elections are the only thing that are going to stop them. And like, I saw this polling the other day. It's not great about trans stuff, but I thought it was pretty interesting. Hating trans people is underwater, even among Republicans. Not hugely underwater. It's like people that are think greater acceptance of transgender people is very or somewhat bad, adds up to, like, according to this graph, like 47%. But that's not, like, if you're voting Republican, like, you're preaching to the choir on this stuff anyway. So like, what's the gain out of it? It just feels good to hate, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And they're absolutely not going to pull back. And I know they're not, because Herschel Walker put out this ad in the run up to the runoff after the shooting. If you got it, Matt, play it.
All right, here we go.
Time NCAA All-American.
And I'm Herschel Walker.
For more than a decade, I worked so hard. 4 a.m. practices to be the best. But my senior year, I was forced to compete against a biological male.
It's unfair and wrong.
A man won the swimming medal that belonged to a woman, and Senator Warnock voted to let it happen.
Warnock's afraid to stand up for female athletes.
Herschel Walker stands up for what's right.
I'm Herschel Walker, and I'm proud to prove.
So, like, first of all, you said it before, but them acting like they give a shit about women's sports is so hilarious. Like, name 2 WNBA players, anybody who's pissed off about this shit. Also, that they spend so much time and effort and attention on this, when it's like, wonder how many actual relevant cases of this there are across the whole country, let alone in any given state. You know what I mean? It's like fucking 2, 3, and then they're talking about this. Like, this will surely help with inflation and gas prices. Spending time, taxpayer resources and efforts on this for what? For nothing. Just because people are freaked out.
And I'm not sure what the government's supposed to do about it. I also don't know what he means by Reverend Warnock voted to have men compete in women's sports. That feels like it's just made up horseshit out of nowhere. Because I know the federal government wouldn't. I mean, voting on Title IX funding or something with some weird language in it. But anyway, we don't need to show the next video, Matt, because Herschel did another speech yesterday where he made it all about how mad he was about men identifying as women, right? And it feels weird to be like, I'm trying to imagine being a trans person and see that graph in the poll I just put up. Like, why are people voting on whether you being accepted is good or bad? Like, we
Right.
shouldn't be doing we shouldn't be doing this. Have to do this episode or whatever, because like it shouldn't be like up for debate. It shouldn't be a political issue whether people exist or not. It's just fucking gross all the way down. And just more examples about they're not pulling back from this. The new Florida Speaker of the House, negating Paul Renner, was accepted his designation today, and he spent half of his speech talking about drag queen story time. And a Texas state representative just filed legislation that requires any business that hosts drag shows, in air quotes, to be listed as sexually oriented businesses, thereby preventing children from legally entering. We're talking about guys dressed up like, Bugs Bunny dressed as a girl bunny reading stories at a library. There's nothing remotely fucking sexual. Maybe the books are about acceptance, but like, most children's books are about acceptance. Charlie Brown was about acceptance of being sad. Sesame Street was about differences. Mr. Rogers, during the Civil Rights Movement, watched a black guy's feet on his show. Like, it's like the children's shows have always been woke.
I mean, we talked about it before on here, but we had a drag show as part of the Relay for Life when I was in high school. Me and all my buddies, like it was like the main event was the teen boys drag show, and it was like great fun, huge hit.
Yeah.
Everybody loved it, but then they were told to be terrified by that sort of thing, and now you can't have it. But
But yeah, one last thing before we get to the comments, like this panic is getting so fucking dumb. I read this story yesterday titled "The Right-Wing Mothers Fueling the School Board Wars." And here's an anecdote from this story about the books they're trying to get rid of. A picture book about seahorses, which touched on everything from their ability to change color to independent movement of their eyes, which threatened to normalize that males can get pregnant by explaining that male seahorses give birth. I don't know what to tell you, man. Male seahorses give birth.
Right. It's it's just a thing that exists in the world, but they say that allowing kids to learn a fact about seahorses, that the male gives birth, that could normalize the idea that males can get pregnant and serves as a covert endorsement of gender fluidity. That is the dumbest fucking thing I have ever heard. Well, so far anyway.
They also were trying to stop the teaching of Greco-Roman myths, nudity, and cannibalism. And the takeaway from this is like Venus emerges naked from the sea in Greco-Roman mythology, and Tantalus cooks his son, so therefore that's cannibalism.
I mean, dude, the Greek myths, that shit is wild for sure.
Very metal,
but
very
like
metal.
It's super metal, and kids love it. Like I was super into that shit when I was younger. My sons are into they like some of that mythology stuff too, because it's fucking wild and crazy, and it doesn't make you insane. All right, Matt, let's find some questions and comments and whatnot. Thanksgiving, Mark, y'all go anywhere? Is it just the two of you at home? What do you do?
We're having a couple friends over, watch the Cowboys game. My wife's going to do a lot of cooking. I do a little bit of cooking. We invited Drew and his wife, but they said they'd rather stay at home alone instead. Which is very true.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. While Matt's looking for comments, I wanted to take a little bit of a victory lap because Peter Thiel's anti-woke bank, which you talked about a while back, went under today or yesterday. It's called Glorify, with Fi spelled F-I, like finance. And the statement the CEO put out about while they're going into business, she cited the financial challenges related to startup mistakes, the failing economy, reputational attacks, and multiple negative stories took their toll. I'm assuming she's talking about the CEO like to get drunk and yell at people at work, but I'm going to take that as we did it, Trey.
We did it, yeah. Debbie Lynn Robinson on Facebook says, hit that like button. Thank you, Debbie Lynn. Yeah, like and subscribe, everybody. Smash it. Smash the button as you do. It's a button on the internet. You got to smash it. But yeah, go anti-woke, go broke, evidently. How about that? That's fun. Terminal 3 on YouTube says Elon isn't playing to anything. He's just trying to get people talking about Twitter and using it.
I don't know, man. I think he's in a right-wing bubble, which believes like first of all, he in theory runs 3 companies, but he tweets 75 times a day. I'm not exaggerating. Somebody did the math. You can go look at who he's talking to on Twitter. It's Nesh D'Souza, a right-wing psycho named Cat Turd. The CEO of Twitter spends his whole day talking to Cat Turd on Twitter.
Cat Turd, yeah.
It's a bunch of psychos, man. I think he's been radicalized because those are the people who tell him he's cool and smart and funny.
I saw he had a tweet where he said, it's because he's done that because he realized that the left had grown too divisive and hateful or something. I'm paraphrasing, but it was something very close to that. And it's like, all right. Kim Cusado, longtime watcher and also a patron. Be like Kim, everybody. Says, did y'all lose anything in the crypto crash? Now, again, I never understood it, still don't understand it, and thus I never waded into those waters, and I guess it worked out. Does it still exist? Like it's still a thing? It's just the bottom fell out of it or whatever? Well, now's the time to buy, Mark. You gotta get in there. On the ground floor. It'll come back.
FTX had started making their own coin, but basically Friedman was a crypto skeptic who was like, I'm not really going to get into crypto, but he ran a crypto bank. So it wasn't like he was making money. He was the bank. He was the exchange. Just like the old thing with the gold rush. The people that get rich aren't people who find gold. It's the people selling the shovels. He was selling the shovels.
Right.
But yeah, he did. He stole the money out of the crypto wallets and tried to put it back in the real economy to make money off of. And then people found out, and that was not good.
Just Jucka on YouTube says, I'm annoyed with the professional finance people surprised by Musk's behavior as though this isn't how he's always been. Yeah.
The man's been good at sales, man. I mean, Tesla stock's down like, I think 50%. It's like $1 trillion in market value just because people are realizing he's stupid because the whole valuation of Twitter was just based on his reputation. So, I mean, the whole value of Tesla, it was just based on his reputation. So that's through the floor. It's very interesting.
This is also a longtime viewer who's Nikon Kalapaikum, something like that on YouTube. Sorry, Nikon says thoughts on Fox.
Yeah.
What do you think? Thoughts on Fox walking away from Trump?
We'll see if they actually do it when it comes down to like actually pushing people to do stuff like vote. But I don't think they can quit it, man. Like he controls all their viewers. It really is an interesting tug of war, but I don't know if like they're not really turning against Trump. They're just pushing DeSantis a lot.
Right.
So they do it pretty hard.
So if it ended up being Trump, they'd just go back to pushing Trump, you think? But they're on Team DeSantis right now. Again, that whole that little that battle right there is going to be some wild shit to watch, I think. I just look forward to the shit talking, the stuff that Trump comes up with to say. It'll all be, middle school fucking playground dumb shit, but that'll be funny seeing that.
They're going to spend like $300 million propping up Ron DeSantis' campaign. It's going to get to the first debate. Trump's going to call him, like I think somebody others suggested calling him Miss Florida, and it's going to ruin his fucking life.
Nikon again says, is there any hope after the midterms? We talked about it. Yeah. Now I think that like it seemed like a repudiation of the most hardcore version of their ideology at the very least. And there isn't a bunch of crazy election denial and stuff. That's encouraging. But also if it makes them sort of, pivot at least a little bit back in the other direction, they'll still suck, but it'll be better than, the alternative. So yeah, I think there's that.
We've talked about it a bunch, but like the election machinery was protected. Like most of the QAnon candidates lost, the election liars lost, and and the places they lost were the places that were most dangerous. So like your swing states. So that was good.
JT Naughton on Facebook says the rail strike is back in the news. Membership turned down the deal for good reasons. Any thoughts? I don't know. I'm not up on it, unfortunately. I assume you are, Mark. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was reading about it today. We talked about it a while back. If you guys aren't familiar or missed that episode, like this railroad workers are striking because they've cut staff so much that the railroad's trying to put one guy per train. So like, let's say a train pulling nuclear waste is one guy in it and he falls asleep or has a heart attack. That's not good. But also the scheduling's so tight that guys don't get days off. They have 0 sick days per year. And you have to schedule your unpaid sick days in advance so you get fired. So you got to get a plan ahead to get sick, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, they won in 15 days. The railroad wanted to keep giving them 0 and not give them any let them schedule time off or give them advance notice for their shifts. And the Biden administration suggested compromise position was 1 sick day. Not great, Joe. I will say in Biden's defense, he has not made any noise about using the government to break the strike. So that's good. He still remains America's most pro-labor president because he suggested a compromise position of 1 sick day.
Yeah.
As the middle point between 0 and 15.
Yeah. Ain't that America? Yeah. All right. Well, once again, y'all go to TreyCrowder.com, check out my tour dates, come and see me. And if you want to support the show, you can go to weeklyskews.com/more, or you can go on Patreon and look me up, get some bonus episodes on there, and support us in the process. We surely would appreciate it. Either way, we appreciate you being here each and every week. We will continue to do so as well. We'll see you in 7 days.